As soon as the wind touched it, the leaf quietly tightened itself around the branch. It did not think it was afraid. It only thought that holding on more tightly was the way to feel more at peace. What unsettled it was not the wind. What unsettled it was the feeling that something was changing, and it did not want that to happen. It had stayed on the branch for so long that it began to believe it belonged there. When people remain in something for too long, they also easily start to believe they have the right to keep it forever. We live like that every day. We cling to a person, a job, an old image of ourselves, and then tell ourselves that as long as we can still hold on, everything is fine. From the outside, that may look like stability, but look more closely, and many times it is only fear disguised as safety. We hold on to love, not always because of love. Many times, we hold on because we are afraid of emptiness, afraid of being left behind, afraid of facing a life that no longer has something familiar to lean on. We hold on to work in the same way, not only because of money, but because it gives us the feeling that we still have value, still have a place, still are someone in this life. We hold on to an old version of ourselves even more than that, a person who was once recognized, once young, once capable, once needed. We do not want to watch that image fade. Then we hold on to feelings. We want joy to stay a little longer. We want the easy days not to end. We want whatever is making us feel okay right now to remain exactly where it is. But life does not work that way. Everything changes naturally. Only the human mind is always trying to hold back what is already flowing away. In the Buddha's teaching, this is where ignorance lies, not because we are weak, but because we see the nature of life incorrectly and mistake what is temporary for something lasting. We think this thing is ours, this person is ours, this position is ours, this feeling is ours. We forget that all of it is only passing through our lives for a little while. The tighter we hold on, the greater our fear becomes, because deep down we know that nothing stands still. So the more we try to keep things, the more we live in anxiety. Human suffering usually does not begin at the moment of loss. It begins at the moment the heart gives rise to the desire to hold on at any cost. The leaf does not suffer because of the wind. It suffers because it believes the branch must remain there for it forever. And people hurt in exactly the same way, whenever they treat what is impermanent as something that should never be allowed to change. When the time came to leave the branch, the leaf thought everything was over. But what was happening to it was not a tragedy. It was simply the law of life. Falling was not the leaf's fault. The wind was not wrong. The changing season was not wrong either. It was only that the leaf could not accept that it could no longer remain where it had been. Human pain is often very much the same. Many times, suffering does not begin with loss. It begins with the resistance inside us, with our refusal to let things unfold according to their nature. We often think life is disappointing us, but most of the time, life is only moving exactly as it is meant to, always changing, always shifting, never keeping anything the same for too long. What breaks us is not the moment something leaves. What breaks us is the belief that it was supposed to stay. We want a person not to change their heart. We want a beautiful feeling not to disappear. We want a good season of life to last a little longer, or even forever. But the more we want things to remain still, the more we suffer when they begin to move. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent, not to make people pessimistic, but to help us see life clearly before we end up hurting ourselves with false expectations. Everything comes and goes according to its conditions. A relationship has times of closeness and times of distance. A feeling has moments when it is strong and moments when it fades. A beautiful season has times when it blooms and times when it closes. Nothing stands still, waiting for our hearts to catch up. And yet people always want to keep what they enjoy exactly as it is. We call that happiness. Then when it changes, we call it unfair. The truth is, life has not betrayed us. We have simply expected the wrong thing from it. We wanted what was temporary to behave as though it would last forever. And from that point, attachment begins to create suffering. We do not just lose something outside of us, we are also torn inside because we cannot accept the truth that it was never ours to control. Holding something in our hands does not mean we can keep it forever, but the human heart loves to forget that. So when something is lost, we do not only feel sadness, we also feel confused, angry, empty, as though life has somehow wronged us. Peace does not come from keeping everything. Peace comes from seeing clearly what everything truly is, from seeing that something is beautiful because it is here, not because it promises to stay forever. When we begin to see that, we start to resist less, not because we stop loving, stop caring, or become cold, but because we understand that holding tighter cannot save what has already reached its time to change. The leaf does not fall because life is cruel. It falls because it is time to fall. And human beings suffer far less when they understand that the deepest pain is not in the leaving itself, but in the part of the mind that stubbornly refuses to let go. The leaf touched the ground, and no tragedy happened. Everything kept going. The wind still blew. The season still moved forward. It was only no longer clinging to the branch. That moment was not the end of everything. It was the moment the resistance stopped. Once it was no longer trying to hold on to what was leaving, it was no longer being torn between fear and reality. People are the same. Many times, what exhausts us is not that something is too heavy. It is that we have strained ourselves for too long, trying to fight what we were never able to keep. We often think letting go means losing. It sounds weak, helpless, like giving up. But in truth, there are things that, if we do not let them go, the only thing left is to keep hurting ourselves. Acceptance does not mean liking what happened. It only means stopping the argument with reality. Once something has changed, it has changed. The more we deny it, the heavier the heart becomes. Letting go does not mean abandoning life. It means no longer forcing life to follow our will. That is not surrender. It is a kind of awakening. Awakening is not something far away. It begins the moment we look directly at one simple truth. Not everything that comes into our life is meant to stay. According to the Buddha's teaching, everything comes and goes according to causes and conditions. Coming together has its conditions. Parting also has its conditions. Wanting something to stay does not mean we can keep it. When we understand that, we panic less whenever something changes. We no longer treat every loss like the end. We no longer assume that every parting is wrong, bad, or something to fear. A lighter heart does not come because life suddenly becomes easier. It comes because we resist less. Resistance is exactly what makes pain last longer and sink its roots more deeply. Some people leave. Some seasons of life come to a close. Some things that once mattered deeply are no longer what they used to be. That is not always pleasant, but it is real. And seeing what is real is always better than clinging to what we wish were true. Wisdom is not found in keeping everything intact. Wisdom is found in knowing what is coming, what is going, and not losing ourselves whenever it happens. Peace does not appear when life stops changing. Peace appears when we stop demanding that life stay still just to make us feel secure. At that point, letting go is no longer a painful act. It becomes the way we move with life, without breaking ourselves every time the season changes. The leaf did not lose its life when it left the branch. It simply stopped resisting the path that was already opening before it. And people, too, begin to find wisdom in that exact moment when they stop resisting.